At least one Palestinian has been killed during overnight raids in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin. There were incursions in al-Qabliya and near occupied East Jerusalem. Armoured vehicles were accompanied by bulldozers, which destroyed infrastructure in Jenin. Nearly 400 Palestinians have been killed in the occupied West Bank since Israel increased raids in October. And a group of Israeli settlers has attacked Palestinians south of the city of Nablus in the occupied West Bank. At least 2 Palestinians were injured when settlers opened fire in the village of Asira. Witnesses say the attackers also set at least one home on fire. Let's go to our correspondent, Rory Challens, who has been monitoring all of this activity for us from occupied East Jerusalem. And a night of violence by both the Israeli army and settlers in the occupied territories, Rory.
Yeah, the West Bank continues to simmer with unrest and violence, and we've seen more of that overnight. The most significant of these incidents was taking place in Jenin, where the Israeli army went into the city and operated there for between 5 and 6 hours. Now, there were clashes between the Israeli army and armed groups in the area. There are many armed groups in Jenin, which is one of the reasons why the Israeli army focuses often on that place. There are representatives of the armed factions of Hamas and Fatah and Islamic Jihad as well. So often the Israeli army goes in with the intention of making arrests or destroying infrastructure, or sometimes it goes in with the explicit intention to kill as well. We understand there have been clashes elsewhere in al-Qabliya too, and Nablus, and the one Palestinian young man, a 19-year-old, has been reported to have died after he was injured. I think he was shot, and then the Israeli army blocked access to the medical crews, and he bled to death. So that's what's been going on in that part of the West Bank. But then we've...
Yeah.
Yes, carry on.
Yes, Rory, I was going to ask you, we're also hearing reports that the heads of Israeli intelligence and security will be travelling to Egypt soon for talks on the release of captives in Gaza in exchange for Palestinians in Israeli jails. What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, so the US administration, Joe Biden's White House, really wants a deal. And it has been pushing Israel to come back to the negotiating table. That is after the Israeli rejection of a Hamas proposal that was based on an agreement or framework that was drawn up between the intelligence chiefs of the United States and Israel and Egypt, with input from the Qataris as well, in Paris. That deal fell apart fairly quickly as soon as it hit the reality of Hamas and Israeli politics. But the United States is trying to get everyone back round the table again to work over this for another time. So there had been a lot of doubt about whether Israel was even going to send a delegation to Cairo. But we have heard from both Haaretz newspaper and Jerusalem Post, not officially announced, but they have been speaking to unnamed Israeli officials who say that the head of Mossad, that's the external intelligence and security agency, and the head of Shin Bet, that's the internal security and intelligence agency, along with army officials, are going to be going to Cairo. And they will there be talking with Bill Burns, the head of the CIA, and the Qatari Prime Minister, the head of the Israeli intelligence as well. So, of course, the main issue there, the big gulf that they have to try and bridge again, is this impasse between the Hamas position and the Israeli position. Hamas wants to exchange prisoners and captives for an end to the war, and Israel says that the war has to go on until Hamas is destroyed.
Yeah, interesting that these talks are very much still taking place behind the scenes. Rory, thank you very much for that. Rory Challens with the latest live in occupied East Jerusalem.